I'm Adam Pennell, Shropshire Lad, and in this video I'm here to show you all of my top tips on how to cook incredible turkey, just like this. Let's get on with it. Best way to cook a whole turkey, don't cook the whole turkey. Simple as that. What we're going to do is we're going to break this bird down, and by breaking it down it means that we can individually nurture every single part of it to make sure that every single part of it is perfectly cooked. We're going to take the point of the knife in right down along the spine all the way along the back. Okay, and you'll be able to feel with the point of that knife where the sort of bony bit of cartilage that runs along the spine is, and then if you can slide down to the rib cage, you can really open up this whole bit. So right down the middle, whenever you're boning out any piece of meat, Jesus Christ, this is getting worse. When you're taking a breast or any, I don't know what the fuck to say. Whenever you're boning out a bird or an animal of any description, you're using the bones as a guideline for where your knife goes, all right? So I've used that down the middle there. And the same thing's going to happen on the other side when I come to it. So you can see, I'm just going to do this early now, so you can actually see what I'm talking about. I've left a tiny bit of meat there. That's all good. I'm not a professional, but you know, having a go yourself is a lot cheaper than buying the crown bird, or you know, a turkey crown. So I'm just now parting the kind of breast there, and having this pointy knife is really handy because what I can do now is start to scrape away a little bit between the rib cage and the bottom of the breast. So I'm kind of separating it. So that now, there is your rib cage. Okay, I'm trying to do this so you can see. I'm just running my knife cleanly along. Then the breast then runs down. I'm going to turn this around so you can see what's going on. So the skin is then connected between the bottom of the breast and the leg here, all right? So I'm just going to gently run the knife down there too. And that kind of separates out the top of this breast. And now I'm going to go work backwards so you guys can see. I'm just going to work anywhere where you can see it's attached. You can just kind of like run your knife along. Okay, all the way to the bottom there. Now, if you do feel like you're going through too much, it's time to turn this over. Okay, now I've gone behind the wing here. I'm going to remove this wing. So pull the breast out to the outside. I can actually see by turning it over. I need to run along this way now. And then I'm going to move that wing. And when you've I've got my thumb in there, and I felt that's the ball joint there. See, that's where the wing is kind of attached. And then this bit here is where the actual top of the breast is attached also. So I'm going to get the knife just inside there, and then there's a clean straight through the ball joint. Then all we've got to do is come around that bit there, remove that flap of skin. Oops. And we have a tiny bit still attached. The turkey breast there with the wing attached. All right. So it's been removed from the body, yeah? And there's very little meat left behind. Less now probably than if you were to carve it as a whole bird. This here, this bit is all meat, right? Boneless, beautiful breast. So what I need to do now is just run my knife. I'm only doing this held up so you guys can see what's going on, all right? But literally you can just work around that wing. There we go. All we're going to do now is just remove that skin. And a little tip so that you know exactly which way to carve across that grain, because you're not going to be able to see it once you've cooked, is that is your grain, those lines. I'm going to run a little knife line just across there like that. That line will show up once the breast is cooked. So when I come to carve this, I know all I need to do is follow that line all the way across, and I'm going to be slicing across the grain all the way along, and I'm going to get the best possible eating experience out of this breast. Right, I've removed the second breast now. So all I need to do is get these thighs and drummers off. I'm going to leave them whole. I'm not going to separate the two. What we're going to do now is run this knife. You can feel there's quite a lot of flesh here. So I'm going to run it until I meet the bone, which is just there. And that's essentially like the back of the spine. I'm just going to run the knife all the way down. One leg removed. Skin is going to stay on this because we're going to cook it in a completely different way to the breast. There we go, straight through. And there we go. Okay, so legs are removed, breasts are removed. They're ready for the brine. We've got this beautiful kind of rib cage and backbone, all the fat, the wings, and the giblets as well, which also always come if you buy a full bird. You won't get that with a crown. We've got this mass here of beautiful kind of bits of turkey that we're going to use to make the most incredible gravy. And that all came basically for free because we bought the whole bird. Brining is probably one of the top tips I would give anybody cooking any kind of poultry. At Embers, we brine our chicken every single week for a roast dinner, but turkey in particular, which is really quite tricky to sort of make sure that it's both tender and delicious, really, really responds well to it. So we're going to work on a 6-litre brine today, starting off with 2 litres of beer. Okay, so I've got various different beers, all from Brew 61. I've tasted them all, they're all delicious. They were really kind and sent me loads of these. They're really hoppy. They're also ales, so they're not too carbonated. Perfect for making a brine. So I'm going to get all 4 of these into our pan here. Now I'm only going to have to heat up the aromats and the sugar and the salt in this pan. And the ice, which is going to then bring the temperature of this right down and then keep our turkey cold after that, is all taken into account of for the 6 litres. So we're only actually using 2 litres of liquid at this point, and then we're going to add the ice afterwards. We've got a light and golden session ale here, 3.8. That one goes into the pan. And then we've got 2 the same, which are hoppy IPAs, 4.5s. Finally, a best bitter, because we're British, aren't we? So that's going in too. So we've got 4 litres of beer in the pot. So we're going to work out the salt percentage next. We're going to use 4 kilos of ice. That's going to be the equivalent of 4,000 grams or 4 kilos of liquid. So in total we've got 6,000. So I always work it out as 10% first would be 600. So half of that is 300. So we're going to go 300 grams of salt. So I've got this rock salt here, which we're going to go into the pan. I am going to go 300 grams of sugar as well. You don't have to use the sugar, but I like a bit of sugar in my brine. So I've just got some caster sugar going into the pot, 300 grams, lovely. Got a big old onion here. Skin's going in as well because it really doesn't matter. Next up, bay leaves. And by the way, you can put whatever you want aromats wise, you know, this is just my vibe, it's Christmas. Got some fresh rosemary, straight out of the garden. We've got some dry thyme, because I couldn't get any fresh. Some black peppercorns, maybe 2 tablespoons, and some fresh sage too. That's going to go in. I'm going to bring it up to the boil, keep stirring it, make sure that all of those aromats have had time to kind of release their flavours, their oils. And then once we've got a nice sort of hot aromatic solution, we're then going to cool that down with some ice down to a safe temperature, add our turkey into the cooler, and then more ice, which will melt over the time that we wait between now and tomorrow and we start cooking. Using a quality cool box is one of my top tips for brining poultry, particularly when you're brining something as big as a turkey. And most of us, particularly here in the UK, don't have a refrigerator big enough to brine a whole bird, you know, in a big kind of vat in their fridge. So using a cool box that will maintain a cold temperature for a period of time, particularly at this time of year. My garage is only like 5 degrees now anyway, right? So this is just going to make sure that we keep everything food safe below a certain temperature, which is Here, food safe would be below 7 degrees, okay? I'm going to try and keep it down to sort of like 3, 4 throughout the whole brine. And that's why we've calculated for the ice. So this brine, there we go. So that's 2 litres of stock. That's only 2. So to make up the other 4, ice. To start with, straight away we're going to go in with 2 kilos of ice. And then we'll let it kind of melt. We're going to check the temperature and see where we're at. I'm not going to add my turkey until this is below 7 degrees to make sure we don't bring the temperature inside the turkey up, allow the bacteria to grow and everyone be on the toilet on Boxing Day. Right, we're now at a safe temperature, 5.7. Okay, so I'm going to add in the turkey. I wouldn't be confident that that's going to stay like cold enough. So the turkey's going to go in, which will definitely bring the temperature up again. And then we're going to add the other 2 litres of ice, which I think over the course of this evening will mostly melt. But I imagine that by tomorrow we'll probably be looking at something like 2, 3 degrees and we'll have nicely brined turkey. Legs going in, fully submerged, lovely. And then those breasts. And as I said, everyone has one bigger than the other. This one's the biggest one. Okay, so that's fully submerged. I could leave that now, okay, but because of the percentages of the salt, it's going to be too salty. So it's important that we add that extra ice. In we go. Lid down. Forget about it. Simple as that. Brine turkey. Good. This is the point where you try and decide, is he using AI or is it actually snowing on the day that he decides to cook a turkey for his Christmas special? But can computers pull the white stuff off the old KJ like this? Probably not. I think you can probably tell what's going on today. But trust the old KJ is going to do the job. Of the coals inside the KJ here, so that we don't get the whole thing too hot. We want to smoke these breasts super low, and the thighs can go super low as well. We'll just shut the lid and let that come up to temperature. We've got this beautiful carcass here left from breaking down that turkey. You've got to make your own gravy. There's no way you can let that go to waste. That right there is flavour. All I've got here are some, got a big brown onion, some shallots, a couple of bulbs of garlic, 2 posh looking carrots that came from our veg box, grown down the road, beautiful, and a couple of leeks. So I'm just going to chop these up, put them straight into the bottom of the pan here, carcass on top, and then bung them in the oven, 180 degrees until they're nice and golden. Dead easy. Right, 24 hours later, turkey's brined, and we're just going to pull out our brined breast onto the board. It's going to take a while for these to cook, I can tell you. All right, let's get that cleaned up. Going to add a little bit of my house rub now. Now this kind of rub is quite classic kind of Texan vibes. It's quite simple, there's nothing overpowering in there, but it's going to give a nice bark to the outside of everything. And you know, we're not going to need bags of it because that was the whole point of brining it. You know, it's got a load of seasoning gone into it now. This isn't overly salty. Often when I use this rub, I'll add salt as well, partly due to everyone's palate not being as into salt as mine, but also just so that in situations like this, you can always add more, but you can't take it out. So I'm not worried about it being crazily salty as long as I'm pretty light with the dusting that I give it. So it's just a fine coat I'm going to go with on everything. Right, we're fully coated. Okay, so now we're going to use the meter here to monitor the temperatures of the cook, and that's super important for our turkey breast here, right? That's going to dry out within 3 or 4 degrees of going over. So the monitoring of this is really key. And so have a leave-in probe like a meter that's completely wireless. You can get 4 different probes in this block. I'm going to put a probe in every single one of these pieces. That breast is smaller than that one, you know. There's different hot spots on the grill. You're never going to get a completely even heat on any barbecue. And so they're all going to finish at different times. And by monitoring each temperature individually, we're going to make sure that everything is absolutely bang on. So I'm going to pick up this thick breast here. This is probe number 1. Number 1 on the bottom of the probe there, you can see. So we know exactly which one's which once they start cooking. Going to go into the thickest part of the breast. I can feel that going in. Happy days. That's probe 1, done. Okay, number 3, it's going to go into one of the thighs. Now, well, say the legs. The thigh is the widest bit, so people will be often inclined to put that in there. But actually, the thickest part of the meat is where you want it, is this cross section of this drumstick here. So right down the inside there is where I'm going to go. So we're going to cook these way beyond the temperature that we're going to cook the breast. The breasts probably meater's going to probably recommend pulling them off like 68. I'm going to ignore that and go a little bit lower again, just because this is a slow growing bird. You can get away with pulling this off at 60 degrees, right? And it will be safe because it's a slow growing bird. Make sure you try and get a decent turkey. If you've got like a frozen one from the supermarket, I'd probably take it a little bit further for safety, but I totally trust my supplier in this. So 60 degrees is where we're going to pull this off. And it means that we're going to get almost like a translucent kind of colour where it's like just on the cusp. You know, pulling it off at 60 means it's going to rest up to 65. 63 is kind of where you're going to be safe. It's on the borderline, but you have to be if you want to have that really, really juicy turkey. All right, let's check on this gravy. Kick it out of the oven, let the steam potential facial pass. Getting a nice bit of colour on that now. And there's loads of liquid in the bottom. You see that? There's partly juices, partly sort of fat that's rendered out, but it's a really good sign that we can now start turning it over a little bit. So I'm just going to get right underneath it and just get all of those veggies coated and turned. Okay, I'm going to pull this. I'm going to turn this carcass over now as well, so we can start to brown off the bottom. Go again. So we're going to set these up now. So probe 1 was the big breast here. Set up the cook. We're going to cook in poultry. It's turkey. It's a breast. We're cooking it on a smoker. It's recommended 75 degrees. As I said, we're cooking a slow-grown bird here. I want to take it way lower. Meter's going to tell you 75 just to be safe, and that is a safety. I'm saying that I'm willing to take that risk. You know, that's entirely up to you. You could cook it more if you want to, but 60 degrees for me is going to be perfect. So I've set it for 60. Start the cook, and then thighs are going to be slightly different. So poultry, turkey. Well, it says thigh or leg. I think it's leg. We'll go with leg. Smoker. Okay, this is saying 77. I disagree again. I'm actually going to go much higher because I really like it to sort of be finishing around about 85. Now I feel I mean, we cooked for sure at 75, but it's not going to come away from the bone in the same way. And I prefer it much more cooked. It means we can get a nice crispy skin too. So, you know, you can change it yourselves, or you can take the recommendations from Meter. It's not a 7 degree difference, you know, but yeah, happy days. So, right then, let's get these pieces of turkey onto the grill. This has like been sort of warming up for around about an hour now. We've got a nice gentle blue smoke rolling out, real lean smoke. I know it's always going to be hotter towards the back of the grill, so I'm going to put the thickest part of those breasts towards the back and the thinner parts pointing into the middle. That's just so that they cook a little bit slower, and then it means it kind of balances out because the thicker part is obviously in the slightly hotter part of the grill. I'm going to put the thigh there and a thigh there, and then I've also got a whole block of butter in a pan. I'm going to drop in there as well. So as these start to dry out, we're just going to brush them and baste them all the way through to cook, and that's it. Pretty simple. Just going to watch the Meter now and see how they get on. So I've got about 100 grams of plain flour going into the fat there. I'm just going to use my spatula to kind of make sure that the fat becomes like a bit of a roux really in the bottom of here. We're going to put it back into the oven once it's all mixed together for another 10 minutes or so that we definitely know that the flour is cooked out. There we go. Internal temperature of the breast has risen by 20 degrees. So it's time to have a little look. Nice. We're just going to start basting and basting and basting. Now it's most important for these breasts, which could easily just sort of dry out and end up with quite a nasty, not nasty, but dry kind of like bark on the outside, which isn't really what you want with turkey. You want it to be soft all the way through. But as we've got it here as well, it's not going to do any harm to our thighs. Plenty of colour to be had on these yet. A long way to go in the cooks. Looking nice though. Back to bed for a little bit longer. That's plenty of water. Don't need any more than that. End up taking. All right, in with some water now. That's thickening up real nicely. Going to loosen everything right down. Right, I'm going to add some bay leaves, some dried rosemary, and some dried thyme. Okay, and then I'm just going to work everything through again. And then we're really going to let this cook down for about an hour or so. And we go back in for another cook. Right, probe 1 is done. Remove from heat. Got 11 minutes remaining on probe 2, 35 and 21. So this is why we're cooking them all individually. All right, so probe 1 is a breast. It was the big breast. So I'm going to find that one, dig it out. Should be this big one. I'm just going to double check on the end of the probe. That it is number 1. It is number 1. All right, so that's going to go inside to rest while the rest of them finish off. Oh, there we go, there we go. We've been standing here for ages with me like a dick, holding my phone out, waiting for that to happen. And then, of course, it happens while we're having a chat. But breast 2 is ready. So I'm going to whip that out. All right, so second breast is resting. Now I'm going to take that butter out. I'm going to take that inside and continue to baste those breasts whilst they rest inside. But while we're out here, so move that to one side, excuse fingers, and then we're just going to switch up the grills now. So as I said before, we're going to crisp up the skin on these two thighs, which aren't quite where they need to be yet. They're nowhere near 85, they're in the 70s. So I'm going to drop the grill down a little bit lower on the KJ. And I've taken the plate out, so now we can get some direct heat onto these thighs. A little bit of fire showing. I'm going to put these skin side down over the hot coals now. It's the first time they've been turned over, so they've got a good bit of colour on the other underside anyway. But this is going to help us crisp up the skin. So I'm going to put that lid down, let that fire calm down. 6 minutes on one, 17 minutes on the other. If we do get to the point where there's enough colour on the skin, it's crispy enough, all we need to do is move them back to the indirect side to allow them to sort of finish in the, you know, in the ambient heat in there rather than the direct heat. Right then, got that butter that's been smoking away. Just going to keep basting up these breasts, making sure the outside is super glossy, smooth. Butter makes everything better anyway. May as well use it up, eh? That can stay here right till the end. Turkey leg 4 is ready. That's the one at the back. I didn't turn it back over, but look, the colour, beautiful. Skin, nicely rendered. That's going to go and join the breasts in resting inside. Last one's done. Happy days. And we've got some beautiful colour on the skin again. Just look at that. Perfect. Woo, woo, woo. Exciting. Right, let's let it rest. Sort out that gravy and we're good to eat. Look at that. Whoa. Oh yeah. So much flavour in that pan, I can tell you now. The sort of all the flour that we put into there is kind of cooked out and it's just gone really sort of silky. So now it's time to gently kind of strain it off, which is always a bit of a fun job. Do a little bit at a time. I'm going to work that through. We're already pretty much at the consistency we need to be from that flour. It's had a good hour in the oven to reduce anyway. If I did need to reduce it in the pan, I could do, but to be honest, I don't think I need to. Okay, so my gravy's almost there now. I'm really happy with how silky and thick it is from that little roux that we made with the turkey fat that was in the bottom of the pan. It doesn't look at all greasy. Beautiful, okay? But what we haven't done is added any seasoning yet. You know, we always do this last because you can always, if we added the seasoning at the start, it might end up being too salty at this point, but we can just add in all these little bits now, which are going to just take it to another level. Something that's completely unconventional, you don't have to do it if you like, but I always love to add to my gravy is soy sauce, okay? It's going to give it a little bit more colour, but it's just got like a slightly different umami rich kind of saltiness to salt. We're going to add some salt too. I'm going to go with a good glug, maybe a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more. Then we're going to go in with a good old fashioned pinch of salt. Start off with a good pinch like that. As I say, we can always add more. You can't take it out. Now, this is sort of like, well, for years it was controversial. Now everyone realizes it actually isn't harmful at all. It's just really good. We're going to put a big pinch of MSG in there. So we're just going to go for a little pinch of MSG. And then, of course, good old black pepper, okay? I'm not going to go too peppery, but a little bit. We'll just give it, I don't want it to be spicy. I just want it to give it a little lift, all right? So we're going to mix all of those together. Okay, so we removed all of the meter probes now. So it's just a case of slicing. If you remember, I put these incisions in the breast so that I'd know which way the grain runs, which you would never tell now. Now it's cooked, but as you can see there quite clearly, this is the line that we need to go along. So let's have a little look. So obviously the first one is never going to be the same as when you get thickly into it, but look at that. But really it's going to be the thickest parts that we're most interested in. So let's continue to slice. It very much reminds me of the Texas style turkey. It's almost like translucent, slightly thicker, almost like a ham because it's been brined. It changes the texture of it completely, firms it up, but it's really, really, you feel how juicy that is. You see how juicy that is. You can slice it really easily, really thinly. And now we're right in the thick of that. That's where the meter just hit it there. Let's just have a little look at the tenderness. So by slicing across the grain, just look how that falls apart. You see how juicy it is, glistening in the light there. Absolutely perfect. Man, the smoke, beautiful kind of flavour come through from that brine. The texture makes it almost like ham, but like so good. Like it's beautiful. You can see how easily it's falling apart. Excuse me. Sorry boys, filming. You have to just wait for a little bit longer. Let's have a look at these legs. So I'll try and do it so you can see what's going on. Work down to the thigh. Inside there, look at that. Mega, mega juicy. I just want it to come away from the bone. But if you want to slice up the meat straight from it, that cartilage has kind of disappeared into it because of the cooking it into the 80s. You know, you could have carried on, or you could confit it if you wanted to actually like pull it or pull it apart. Sorry, pull it or for it to, if you wanted for it to pull it or for it to fall apart. But Nothing's going to fall apart below 95 degrees, we know that. But this, I think, is the best way of cooking your turkey leg. So you get that nice crispy bit of skin on the outside. It's going to go right down to the bone. Thigh meat's coming away. Look how complex that muscle is. There's like 6 different muscle groups there, but as you can see, it's just kind of falling apart because we've taken it a little bit further than you'd expect. Like a lot, this is 60, this is 85. The difference means that it eats so well. Right, turkey's all carved. Ladle some gravy into the jug. Right, and there we have it, guys. Beautiful smoked turkey, the breast, the leg meat, this awesome gravy, which I just have to show you the way it coats the meat. Oh. Look at that. Incredible. Honestly, these tips will change your life. So I hope you enjoy eating your turkey as much as I'm going to enjoy eating this one for your Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas, whatever it is you're cooking turkey for. One more top tip, try not to do your outro with turkey in your mouth. It's a struggle. So I'm just going to carry on eating. Have a great time. If you like what you've seen today, subscribe, tell your mates and all that jazz. We'll see you soon. Cheers.